The mansion fell silent, except for the sound of a child's desperate sobbing echoing through marble hallways. 5-year-old Giovanni Vitale sat alone at the massive dining table, untouched food growing cold before him, tears streaming down his pale cheeks. "Please, sir, we've tried everything," whispered the trembling nanny to the imposing figure in the doorway. "He won't eat for anyone." "It's been 3 days." Stefano Vitale, Miami's most feared mafia boss, stood frozen, his tailored black suit and cold demeanor unable to mask the helplessness in his dark eyes. His son was wasting away, and he was powerless to stop it. That's when she appeared. Alejandra Vargas, the new maid with kind eyes and calloused hands, ignored every protocol. She knelt beside Giovanni, gently brushing his tears away, and whispered in Spanish, "Está bien, mi niño. You just miss your mama, don't you?" For the first time in months, Giovanni's crying stopped. Stefano's breath caught. No one, no expensive nanny, no child psychologist, had been able to reach his son. But this unknown woman had done the impossible with just a whisper. Who was she? The Miami sun blazed mercilessly as Alejandra Vargas clutched the crumpled address in her sweating palm. Coral Gables. She'd never imagined she'd set foot in this neighborhood of mansions and manicured lawns, where her monthly rent wouldn't cover a single dinner at the restaurants here. "Senora, you sure this is the right place?" the taxi driver asked, eyeing the imposing iron gates ahead. Alejandra checked the address again. Villa Serenita. The name was etched in elegant script on black marble. Through the gates, she could see a Mediterranean-style mansion that looked like something from a movie. Cream-colored walls, terracotta roof tiles, and palm trees swaying in perfectly landscaped gardens. "See, this is it," she replied, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. 3 weeks ago, she'd been fired from her job as a housekeeper at a downtown hotel. The manager claimed she was too emotional with the guests, always asking about their families, remembering their preferences. In Mexico, caring about people was a virtue. In Miami, apparently, it was a liability. Now, with only $47 left and her visa status hanging by a thread, this mysterious job posting had been her salvation. Domestic assistant needed, excellent pay, discretion required, experience with children preferred. The gates opened silently as she approached, as if someone had been watching. Alejandra walked up the winding driveway, her worn sneakers silent on the pristine pavement. Everything here whispered of wealth. The fountain with dancing dolphins, the luxury cars parked like sleeping giants, the windows that sparkled like diamonds. A stern woman in a black uniform opened the massive front door before Alejandra could knock. "You must be the new girl," the woman said in accented English. "Italian, maybe." "I'm Francesca, the head housekeeper. You're late." "I'm sorry, the bus—" "No excuses. Mr. Vitale doesn't tolerate lateness." Francesca's eyes swept over Alejandra's simple jeans and white blouse with obvious disapproval. "Follow me. And remember, speak only when spoken to, never ask personal questions, and whatever you see or hear in this house stays in this house. Understood?" Alejandra nodded, though confusion swirled in her mind. What kind of household required such secrecy? The interior took her breath away. Marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers, oil paintings in golden frames lined the walls, and everything gleamed with the kind of perfection that money could buy. But despite its beauty, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet, too tense, like everyone was holding their breath. "The child's room is upstairs," Francesca continued, her heels clicking sharply. "Giovanni, 5 years old, has difficult since his mother passed. We've had 7 nannies in 6 months. None lasted more than 2 weeks. They climbed a grand staircase, and Alejandra noticed men in dark suits stationed at various points throughout the house. Security guards? Their eyes followed her movement with professional intensity. "What happened to his mother?" Alejandra asked softly. Francesca stopped abruptly. "I told you, no personal questions. That's the fastest way to get fired here." They reached a hallway lined with family portraits. Alejandra's steps slowed as she studied them. A beautiful woman with warm brown eyes holding a baby, the same woman laughing at a beach, and finally a formal family portrait. The woman, a small boy with dark curls, and a man whose presence dominated the frame even in a photograph. Stefano Vitale. Even in the picture he was intimidating. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp cheekbones and eyes like black ice. His white dress shirt was open at the collar, revealing a glimpse of a tattoo on his neck, and an expensive watch caught the camera's flash. Everything about him screamed power and danger. "That's Mr. Vitale," Francesca said, noticing her stare. And that was his wife, Mariana. She died in a car accident 8 months ago. Alejandra's heart clenched. A widower raising a young son alone. No wonder the child was struggling. They stopped outside a door painted with cheerful cartoon characters, a stark contrast to the house's formal elegance. From inside came the sound of muffled crying. "Giovanni hasn't eaten properly in 3 days," Francesca explained. "He won't let anyone touch him, won't speak, won't play. The pediatrician says there's nothing physically wrong, but—" She shrugged helplessly. Alejandra pushed open the door gently. The room was a child's paradise. Toys everywhere, a race car bed, walls painted like a jungle scene. But in the center of it all, a small boy sat on the floor, knees pulled to his chest, sobbing quietly. Her heart broke instantly. "Giovanni?" she called softly, kneeling to his level. The boy looked up, revealing eyes exactly like his father's, dark, intense, but filled with a pain no 5-year-old should carry. His face was streaked with tears, his dark curls messy. "Hola, mi amor," Alejandra whispered, switching instinctively to Spanish. "I'm Alejandra. What's wrong, pequeño?" Something in her tone made Giovanni stop crying. He stared at her with curious eyes. "You talk funny," he said in a small voice. Alejandra smiled. "I'm from Mexico. We speak Spanish there. Do you want to learn some words?" For the first time, Giovanni showed interest. He nodded slightly. "Okay. Hola means hello. Can you say hola?" "Hola," Giovanni repeated, his pronunciation perfect. "Muy bien. Very good." Alejandra clapped softly. "Now, are you hungry? ¿Tienes hambre?" Giovanni's stomach growled audibly, answering for him. But when Alejandra stood to get his lunch tray, he grabbed her hand. "Don't leave," he whispered. "Everyone always leaves." The raw vulnerability in his voice nearly brought tears to her eyes. "I'm not going anywhere, mi niño. I'm just getting your food. I'll be right back, I promise." As she helped Giovanni eat, the first full meal he'd had in days, Alejandra felt eyes watching them. She turned to find a figure in the doorway and her breath caught. Stefano Vitale was even more imposing in person. He filled the doorway with his presence, his white dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the edge of an intricate tattoo on his neck. A platinum Rolex gleamed on his wrist as he crossed his arms, studying the scene before him with unreadable dark eyes. "Papa!" Giovanni called out, his face lighting up for the first time. But Stefano's expression remained cold, distant. "Eat your dinner. Giovanni, I have work to do." As he turned to leave, Alejandra felt a surge of protective anger. This little boy needed his father, not another employee. "Mr. Vitale," she called out, surprising herself with her boldness. He stopped, turning slowly. When their eyes met, Alejandra felt an electric shock run through her. Up close, she could see the exhaustion hidden behind his intimidating facade, the grief he carried like armor. "Your son missed you today," she said simply. For a moment, something flickered in Stefano's eyes, surprise, pain, maybe even gratitude. But it vanished quickly, replaced by his usual mask of control. "Just do your job, miss." "Vargas, Alejandra Vargas." He nodded curtly and disappeared down the hallway, leaving Alejandra with a racing heart and the strangest feeling that her life had just changed forever. 3 days into her new job, Alejandra had established a routine that seemed to work miracles. Giovanni ate every meal, laughed during their Spanish lessons, and had even started sleeping through the night. But she was learning that success in the Vitale household came with unexpected complications. "The boss wants to see you," Christopher, the head of security, announced as she finished helping Giovanni with his breakfast. The man's expression was unreadable, but something in his tone made her stomach flutter with nervousness. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, automatically switching to English. "Just follow me." Stefano's office was a study in controlled power. dark wood paneling, leather-bound books, and windows overlooking the Miami skyline. He sat behind a massive desk, reviewing documents, his white shirt crisp and perfectly pressed despite the early hour. The top 4 buttons were undone, revealing the strong column of his throat and the edge of his neck tattoo, an intricate design that looked both elegant and dangerous. "Sit," he commanded without looking up. Alejandra perched on the edge of the leather chair, her hands folded in her lap. She'd changed from her usual jeans into a simple black dress, hoping to look more professional, but under Stefano's scrutiny, she felt underdressed and out of place. "Giovanni ate all his breakfast this morning," Stefano said, finally raising his eyes to meet hers. "And yesterday's lunch and dinner." "Yes, sir." "In 3 days, you've accomplished what 7 trained nannies couldn't in 6 months. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with those penetrating dark eyes. "How?" Alejandra chose her words carefully. "I listened to him. In Mexico, we believe children need to feel heard, not just fed. Mexico." He said the word like he was tasting it. "You're here legally?" Heat flooded her cheeks. "I have a work visa, but it expires soon. I'm trying to—" "I don't care about your documentation status," he interrupted. "I care about my son. He's been different since his mother died. Withdrawn. Angry. The child psychologist said it could take years for him to recover." Alejandra's heart ached for both father and son. "Grief has no timeline, Mr. Vitale, especially for children. They don't understand why someone they love disappears." Something shifted in Stefano's expression, a crack in his carefully maintained composure. "What do you understand about loss?" The question was personal, intimate in a way that surprised her. "I lost my father when I was Giovanni's age. A work accident. My mother. She tried, but she was drowning in her own pain. I learned that sometimes children need someone who isn't drowning to throw them a lifeline." Stefano was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the leather desk pad. His platinum Rolex caught the morning light streaming through the windows. "Your salary is being doubled," he said finally. "You'll also receive health insurance and housing assistance." Alejandra's eyes widened. "Sir, that's very generous, but—" "It's not generosity, it's business. My son needs stability, and you're providing that. Don't make me regret this decision." As she stood to leave, Stefano's voice stopped her at the door. "Miss Vargas, thank you." The words were simple, but the vulnerability in his voice made her heart skip. When she turned back, their eyes met for a moment that stretched longer than it should have, filled with an awareness that had nothing to do with employer and employee. That afternoon, Alejandra discovered another side of the Vitale household when Joey, the driver, offered to take her grocery shopping for Giovanni's meals. "Boss never lets anyone cook for the kid," Joey explained as they drove through downtown Miami. "But he made an exception for you. That's unusual." "Why?" Joey glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Vitale doesn't trust easy. His world, our world, it's dangerous. People get close for the wrong reasons. Money, power, information. But you just see a sad little boy who needs his mama." At the market, Alejandra marveled at the freedom to choose ingredients without checking prices. She selected fresh vegetables, spices from the international aisle, and ingredients for Giovanni's favorite Mexican dishes, foods that reminded her of home and comfort. "What's that?" Giovanni asked later, watching her prepare fresh salsa. "Pico de gallo. It's like a party in your mouth. Tomatoes, onions, cilantro, and lime juice dancing together." Giovanni giggled, the first genuine laugh she'd heard from him. "Can I help?" "Of course, mi amor. But first, wash your hands like a chef." They cooked together, Giovanni standing on a step stool, carefully stirring ingredients, while Alejandra told him stories about her grandmother's kitchen in Guadalajara. The boy absorbed every word, asking questions about Mexico, about her family, about foods he'd never tried. "Why did you come to America?" Giovanni asked as they waited for the quesadillas to cook. "For opportunities," Alejandra said carefully. "Sometimes we have to leave home to find our dreams." "Do you miss your mama?" The innocent question hit her unexpectedly. Every day. But missing someone doesn't mean we stop living. It means we carry their love with us wherever we go. Giovanni nodded solemnly. I miss my mama too. But I like when you're here. You smell like vanilla and cinnamon, like Mama used to. Alejandra's eyes filled with tears. She knelt to Giovanni's level, cupping his face gently. Your Mama's love is still here, pequeño, in your heart, in your Papa's heart, in all the good memories. I can't replace her, but I can help you remember that love. Will you stay? Giovanni asked. His dark eyes, so much like his father's, filled with hope and fear. As long as you need me, she promised. Neither of them noticed Stefano standing in the kitchen doorway, having come home early from work. He watched his son laugh, really laugh, for the first time since Mariana's death. He saw the gentle way Alejandra touched Giovanni's hair, the patient way she answered his endless questions, the love that seemed to flow naturally from her. And for the first time in 8 months, Stefano felt something other than grief and rage. He felt hope. But he also felt something more dangerous, an attraction to the woman who was bringing his family back to life, an attraction that could complicate everything in his carefully controlled world. As Alejandra turned and caught sight of him, their eyes met across the kitchen. The moment stretched between them, charged with an awareness neither could deny. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. She was light in a world that had been dark for too long. Papa, Giovanni called out, breaking the spell. Alejandra taught me to make Mexican food. Try it. Stefano approached slowly, accepting the small plate his son offered with pride. The food was simple but delicious, seasoned with care and love, things that had been missing from this house for far too long. It's very good, he said, and meant it. Giovanni beamed. Alejandra says food tastes better when you make it with people you love. Stefano's eyes found Alejandra's again, and this time, neither looked away. 2 weeks later, Alejandra had settled into a rhythm that felt dangerously close to belonging. Giovanni had transformed from a withdrawn, grieving child into a bright, curious boy who filled the mansion with laughter. But with that success came an unexpected complication, Stefano's increasing presence in their daily routine. Papa, watch this, Giovanni called out from the pool, where Alejandra was teaching him to swim. I can hold my breath for 10 seconds. Stefano had started coming home earlier, joining them for dinner, even helping with bedtime stories. Today he sat poolside in dark swim shorts and a white linen shirt, the afternoon sun highlighting the strong lines of his shoulders and the intricate tattoo that curved along his neck. Very impressive, Figlio. Stefano called back, but his eyes were on Alejandra. She tried to ignore the way his gaze made her skin warm, focusing instead on Giovanni's swimming technique. But it was impossible to miss how Stefano had changed over the past weeks. The cold distance had thawed into something warmer, more protective. He smiled more, laughed at Giovanni's jokes, and sometimes caught her looking at him with an intensity that made her breath catch. Alejandra, will you teach Papa to make your abuela's enchiladas? Giovanni asked as they toweled off. He said he wants to learn Mexican cooking. Did he now? Alejandra glanced at Stefano, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Giovanni mentioned they were his favorite, Stefano said, his accent making the words sound like velvet. I thought, perhaps you could show me the recipe. That evening, the kitchen became an intimate classroom. Alejandra stood close to Stefano, guiding his hands as he learned to roll enchiladas properly. Every accidental touch sent electricity through her, his fingers brushing hers as she corrected his technique, the warmth of his body when he leaned over her shoulder to watch her prepare the sauce. Like this? He asked, his breath warm against her ear. Si, perfect, she whispered, then immediately stepped back, needing distance from the dangerous intimacy of the moment. But Stefano followed, closing the space between them. Alejandra, he said softly, I need to ask you something. Before she could respond, Christopher burst through the kitchen doors, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. The Russians are moving on the port shipment. The transformation in Stefano was instant and chilling. The warm, gentle man disappeared, replaced by someone cold and deadly. How many? 6 cars, maybe more. They're testing our response time. Stefano's jaw clenched. His hand automatically moving to check his watch. A gesture Alejandra was learning meant he was calculating risks and responses. Double the security detail. I want eyes on every entrance. What about the family? Christopher's gaze flicked meaningfully toward Alejandra and Giovanni. Full lockdown. No one leaves the property. As the men discussed security protocols in rapid, clipped sentences, Alejandra felt the blood drain from her face. This was the world Stefano really lived in, not the gentle father teaching his son to swim, but a man whose enemies moved against him with violence and intent. "Papa?" Giovanni appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Why is everyone talking so loud?" Stefano's expression softened instantly as he knelt to his son's level. "Just business, Figlio. Go back to bed. Alejandra will be up to read you a story in a few minutes." But Giovanni's attention had shifted to the tension in the room, the way the adults were standing, the serious expressions. At 5, he was already learning to read the dangerous undercurrents of his father's world. "Are the bad people coming again?" Giovanni asked in a small voice. Alejandra's heart clenched. Again? How many times had this child lived through threats and lockdowns? "No one is going to hurt you," Stefano said firmly, pulling Giovanni into his arms. "Papa promises." Later that night, after Giovanni was finally asleep, Alejandra found herself unable to rest. She wandered to the kitchen for tea and found Stefano standing at the window, still in his white dress shirt, but now with a shoulder holster visible beneath his jacket. "You should be sleeping," he said without turning around. "So should you." He turned then, and in the dim light she could see the weight he carried, the constant vigilance, the responsibility for everyone under his protection, the loneliness of command. "This life," he said quietly, "it's not safe for people I care about. Mariana knew the risks when she married me, but she chose it anyway. She paid the price." Alejandra's breath caught. "The accident. It wasn't really an accident, was it?" Stefano's silence was answer enough. "They killed her to hurt you," Alejandra whispered, understanding flooding through her. "I should send you away," Stefano said, moving closer. "For your safety, for Giovanni's. Every day you stay here, you become more of a target. But you won't. No." His voice was rough with emotion. "Because for the first time in 8 months, my son is happy. Because you've brought life back to this house. Because I—" He stopped, running a hand through his dark hair. "Because what?" Stefano stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could smell his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. "Because I'm falling in love with you, and that terrifies me more than any enemy ever could." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Alejandra's heart hammered against her ribs as she looked up at this powerful, dangerous man who was showing her his most vulnerable truth. "Stefano," she whispered, reaching up to touch the side of his face. He caught her hand, pressing it against his cheek. "You don't understand what you're getting into. My world, it destroys beautiful things. I'm stronger than I look. I know you are. That's what scares me most." Before either could say more, alarms began blaring throughout the house. Red emergency lights bathed the hallway in an ominous glow as Christopher's voice came over the intercom. "Lockdown initiated. This is not a drill. All personnel to positions." Stefano immediately shifted into protective mode, his hand moving to the small of Alejandra's back. "Stay with Giovanni. Don't leave his room no matter what you hear." "What's happening?" "The Russians aren't just testing anymore." His dark eyes were hard as steel. "They're making their move." As armed men moved through the house with military precision, Alejandra realized that falling in love with Stefano Vitale meant accepting that danger would always be part of their lives. The question was whether love was strong enough to survive in a world where enemies struck without warning, and the price of caring could be measured in blood. From upstairs came Giovanni's frightened voice, calling for his papa, and Alejandra knew that whatever happened next, she would protect that little boy with her life, even if it meant standing between him and a war she didn't understand. The attack came at dawn. Alejandra woke to the sound of breaking glass and Giovanni's terrified screams. She bolted from her bed, racing to his room, as gunfire erupted somewhere in the house. The little boy was huddled under his covers, sobbing. "Alejandra," he cried, launching himself into her arms. "Where's Papa?" "He's handling the bad people, mi amor," she said, trying to keep her voice calm even as her heart hammered with fear. "We need to go to the safe room, remember?" Stefano had shown her the hidden panic room behind Giovanni's bookshelf just days ago, a precaution she'd hoped they'd never need. Now, as the sounds of battle grew closer, she was grateful for his foresight. The safe room was small but well equipped, with monitors showing security feeds from around the property. On the screens, Alejandra could see men in black moving through the grounds, exchanging gunfire with Stefano's security team. And there, in the main hallway, was Stefano himself, white shirt now torn and bloodied, moving with lethal precision as he fought to protect his home. "Papa's hurt!" Giovanni cried, seeing the blood on the monitor. "He's okay, pequeño. Your papa is very strong." But Alejandra's hands shook as she watched the man she loved fighting for their lives. This was his world, violence and danger at every turn. How could she have thought love would be enough? The battle seemed to last hours, though it was probably only minutes. When the gunfire finally stopped, an eerie silence fell over the house. Giovanni had cried himself to sleep in her arms, exhausted by fear. Then the safe room door opened, and Stefano appeared. His white dress shirt was torn and stained with blood, his hair disheveled, but his dark eyes immediately found hers with relief. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently, kneeling beside them. "We're fine. But you—" "It's not my blood." His voice was cold, distant, the voice of a man who had just killed to protect what was his. "It's over. For now." As they emerged from the safe room, Alejandra saw the aftermath of the attack. Bullet holes in the walls, shattered windows, blood on the marble floors. The beautiful home had become a war zone. "Pack your things," Stefano said quietly as they reached Giovanni's room. "Both of you. I'm sending you somewhere safe." Alejandra's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "The Russians know about you now, about how much you mean to Giovanni, to me." His jaw was tight with controlled emotion. "They'll use that against us. I won't let you become another casualty of my choices." "You're sending us away? To a safe house in Colorado, mountains, isolation, full security detail. You'll have everything you need." Giovanni stirred in her arms, looking up at his father with sleepy confusion. "Papa? Are we going on vacation?" "Something like that, figlio." Stefano's voice gentled as he smoothed his son's hair. "You and Alejandra are going to stay somewhere safe while Papa finishes his work. Will you come with us?" The pain that flashed across Stefano's face was heartbreaking. "I can't, but I'll visit when I can." "No!" Giovanni's voice rose in panic. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with you. Giovanni, listen to me." Stefano knelt to his son's level, his hands gentle on the boy's shoulders. "The most important thing to me is keeping you safe, both of you. Sometimes that means making hard choices." But Giovanni was 5 years old, and all he understood was that his father was sending him away again, just like when Mama had gone away and never came back. "You don't want us anymore," Giovanni sobbed, the words cutting through the room like a blade. "Just like Mama, everyone always leaves." Stefano's composure cracked. "No, figlio, that's not—" But Giovanni had already run to his room, slamming the door behind him. In the silence that followed, Alejandra felt her own heart breaking. "This is what you meant, isn't it? When you said your world destroys beautiful things." Stefano stood slowly, his shoulders rigid with tension. "Yes. And you've already decided. We're leaving whether we want to or not. It's not about what any of us want. It's about survival." Alejandra studied his face, the hard lines, the cold determination, the way he'd already begun to distance himself emotionally. "You're protecting yourself too, aren't you? It's easier to send us away than to risk losing us the way you lost Mariana." "Don't." His voice was sharp with warning. "She wouldn't want this for Giovanni. A life of running, of hiding, of never feeling safe or settled. Mariana is dead because of choices I made." The words exploded from him with raw pain. "Because I thought I could have both, this life and a family. I was wrong then, and I'm wrong now. So that's it? You're giving up? Stefano turned away, his hands clenched into fists. I'm being realistic. This attack was just the beginning. Natasha Romanov won't stop until she destroys everything I care about. The only way to protect you is to remove you from the equation. And what about love? What about the fact that Giovanni needs his father, not another abandonment? What about the fact that I... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. What? He demanded, turning back to face her. That I love you, she whispered. Both of you. You're my family now. The confession hung between them, and for a moment Stefano's mask slipped. She saw the longing in his eyes, the desperate wish that things could be different. Love isn't enough, he said finally, not in my world. Then maybe it's time to change your world. Before he could respond, Christopher appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. The Russians left something behind. He handed Stefano a photograph, and Alejandra watched the blood drain from Stefano's face. What is it? She asked. Stefano's hand shook slightly as he showed her the image. It was a picture of her and Giovanni at the market just days ago, taken without their knowledge. Across the bottom, someone had written in red ink. We know where to find them. They've been watching us, Alejandra breathed. For weeks, probably. Stefano's voice was deadly quiet. Which means running won't help. They'll find you wherever you go. The realization settled over them like a cold shadow. There was no safe house remote enough, no security detail strong enough to guarantee protection from an enemy who had already gotten this close. So what do we do? Alejandra asked. Stefano looked at the photograph again, his jaw clenched with determination. We end this, once and for all. Absolutely not. Stefano's voice was steel as he paced his office, the photograph of Alejandra and Giovanni still clutched in his hand. I won't use you as bait. It's the only way, Alejandra insisted, her own voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. You said yourself that running won't work. They know where to find us. But if we control the when and where, the plan is too dangerous. Christopher cleared his throat from his position by the door. Actually, boss, it might work. Natasha's weakness has always been her arrogance. She'll want to handle this personally, especially if she thinks she can take out both your son and the woman you love in one move. Stefano's dark eyes flashed dangerously. I said no. Papa? Giovanni's small voice came from the doorway. He stood there in his pajamas, having obviously been listening. Are you going to fight the bad lady? Stefano's expression immediately softened as he knelt to his son's level. Giovanni, you should be sleeping. I can't sleep, I'm scared. The little boy's dark eyes, so much like his father's, were wide with fear. Are you going to send me away like the other papas do when the bad people come? What other papas? At school. Tommy's papa sent him to his grandma when the bad people came to their house, and Maria's papa sent her to live with her tia in California. They said it was to keep them safe, but they never came back. Alejandra's heart clenched as she realized Giovanni was talking about other Mafia families, other children who had been separated from their fathers for safety and never reunited. I don't want to go away, Papa, Giovanni continued, tears beginning to fall. I want to stay with you and Alejandra. We're a family now. Stefano pulled his son into his arms, his own eyes suspiciously bright. We are a family, Figlio, and families stick together. Even when it's dangerous? Especially when it's dangerous. Over Giovanni's head, Stefano's eyes met Alejandra's, and she saw the moment he made his decision. Love had won over fear. All right, he said quietly, we do this together, but we do it my way. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Natasha Romanov had made one crucial mistake. She'd revealed her obsession with destroying Stefano personally. That obsession would be her downfall. They would stage a public outing, something that looked spontaneous but was actually carefully orchestrated. The Miami Children's Museum, crowded enough to provide cover, public enough that Natasha would have to be subtle, but with enough exit points for Stefano's team to control the situation. She'll bring minimal backup, Christopher explained as they reviewed the layout. She won't want witnesses to what she's planning. That gives us the advantage. And if something goes wrong? Alejandra asked, Nothing will go wrong, Stefano said firmly, his hand finding hers. I won't let anything happen to either of you. The day of the operation dawned bright and clear. As they prepared to leave, Stefano pulled Alejandra aside. If things go badly, he said, pressing a small device into her hand, press this button. It will bring every one of my men running. Stefano, promise me. Whatever happens to me, you get Giovanni out of there. She looked into his dark eyes, seeing the love and fear and determination there. Nothing's going to happen to you. We're all going home together. Promise me, Alejandra. I promise, but only if you promise me something too. Anything. Promise me that after this is over, we'll stop running. We'll stop being afraid. We'll just be a family. Stefano cupped her face in his hands, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. I promise. After today, no more fear, no more hiding, just us. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promises for the future they would build together. The museum was crowded with families enjoying the weekend. Giovanni ran from exhibit to exhibit with the enthusiasm of a normal 5-year-old, though Alejandra noticed Stefano's security team positioned strategically throughout the building. They were watching Giovanni play in the water exhibit when Natasha Romanoff appeared. She was beautiful in a cold, calculated way, platinum blonde hair, ice blue eyes, and a smile that never reached her eyes. She approached them casually, as if she were just another parent at the museum. Stefano Vitale, she said in accented English. How domestic you've become. Natasha. Stefano's voice was calm, but Alejandra could feel the tension radiating from him. Enjoying your vacation in Miami? Oh, I'm not here for vacation. Her gaze shifted to Alejandra, then to Giovanni, who was still playing happily, unaware of the danger. I'm here to collect what's mine. I don't have anything that belongs to you. No, the port shipment you intercepted last week belonged to me. The warehouse you burned down belonged to me, and now... Her smile turned predatory. Your happiness belongs to me too. She moved with lightning speed, but Stefano was faster. As Natasha reached for her weapon, Stefano tackled her to the ground, both of them crashing into the water exhibit. Museum visitors screamed and scattered as security alarms began blaring. Giovanni! Alejandra called out, grabbing the boy and pulling him behind a large display case. Papa! Giovanni cried, trying to see what was happening. Through the chaos, Alejandra watched Stefano and Natasha fighting in the shallow water, both deadly and determined. But Natasha had backup. 2 men appeared from the crowd, moving toward them with clear intent. Alejandra pressed the panic button Stefano had given her, but she knew it would take time for help to arrive. Time they didn't have. Stay here, mi amor, she told Giovanni, then did something that surprised even her. She grabbed a heavy educational display and brought it down on one of Natasha's men as he reached for Giovanni. The man went down hard, and his partner turned toward her with fury in his eyes. But before he could reach her, Christopher appeared, taking him down with professional efficiency. In the water, Stefano had gained the upper hand. Natasha was on her knees, defeated, as police sirens wailed in the distance. It's over, Stefano said, breathing hard. Your war ends here. Natasha looked up at him with hatred in her ice-blue eyes. You think this ends it? There will always be others. Your family will never be safe. Maybe not, Stefano said, glancing toward Alejandra and Giovanni. But we'll face whatever comes together. As the police took Natasha away and the museum was secured, Giovanni ran to his father, launching himself into Stefano's wet arms. Papa, you're safe. We're all safe, Figlio. Stefano looked over Giovanni's head at Alejandra, his dark eyes soft with love and relief. We're all safe. Later that evening, as they sat together in their restored home, Giovanni asleep between them on the couch, Stefano took Alejandra's hand. I have something to ask you, he said quietly. What? He slipped off the couch, kneeling beside her, and pulled out a small velvet box. Alejandra Vargas, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, Giovanni's mother, and help me build a life where love is stronger than fear? Through her tears, she could only nod. Yes, see, always yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Giovanni stirred sleepily. "Are you going to be my real mama now?" he asked. "If you want me to be, mi amor." "I do. I love you, mama." And in that moment, surrounded by the family she'd found in the most unexpected place, Alejandra knew that love had indeed conquered fear. Years later, the Vitale mansion had transformed into something it had never been before. A true home, filled with laughter, love, and the chaos of a growing family. Alejandra stood in the kitchen, her hands covered in flour as she taught 8-year-old Giovanni and his 3-year-old sister Isabella how to make their abuela's famous empanadas. The little girl, named for Stefano's first wife but with Alejandra's warm brown eyes, chattered happily in a mixture of Spanish and English while Giovanni translated for his papa. "Mama says you're doing it wrong," Giovanni announced with the authority of an older brother. "The edges need to be sealed better." Stefano laughed, the sound rich and warm, so different from the cold, distant man Alejandra had first met. His white dress shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing the tattoo on his neck that had once seemed so dangerous and now felt like home. His platinum Rolex was covered in flour, but he didn't seem to care. "Your mama is always right," he said, pulling Alejandra close and kissing her temple. "About everything." The legitimate businesses had flourished, the dangerous elements of the past finally left behind. Stefano had kept his promise. They'd built a life where love was stronger than fear, where children could play without looking over their shoulders, where happiness wasn't a luxury, but a daily reality. "Te amo," Alejandra whispered against his ear. "Ti amo anch'io," he replied, holding his family close. "Forever." Outside, Miami's sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, but inside the Vitale home, the light came from something much more precious, the love that had saved them all. And that's how love conquered fear here at Passion and Power. Did Stefano and Alejandra's journey make your heart race? Drop a comment telling us your favorite moment from their story. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible romance tales. Your support helps us bring you these emotional roller coasters every week. Until next time, keep believing in the power of love.